back, everyone, to the She Sells, He Sells podcast, where we are here to change the way you think about sales by teaching you to look at it in a whole new way.
Are you saying that in your sleep yet? That little line?
I mean, I say it all the time. That's how I answer the phone for work calls and stuff.
You should try that out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today. I'm always excited, but I'm really excited today because I feel like we're putting some of our own IP, aka intellectual property, into the world. This is all trademarked, so don't be stealing it. Don't be stealing it.
And if you're an IP attorney looking for work, give us a call.
Yes, we are talking about sales styles. So this is something we've discussed for years. Like we should create different profiles of sales styles with a quiz. And it's another one of those things. It felt like such a big task that we kind of drug our feet on it. But I've been working furiously behind the scenes for the past 2 weeks to really synthesize the material that we've already had and make it make sense. And we're launching our quiz today.
It's a tremendous quiz. It really is an amazing quiz. I will say the people from the Iowa Basic Quiz, you guys remember I don't know if everyone took this or if it was just a Pennsylvania thing where kids growing up.
Oh my gosh.
We used to take the Iowa Basic Test, which I guess I don't know. I don't think it's a thing anymore. Standardized test. But people from Iowa Basic are emailing you, asking you how you design your test and everything. So not to overstate it, but they are. But no, all kidding aside, I think the other thing is like we've seen if you've really been dialed into this sales profiling of, your sales style, buying styles, grouping people together to make things a little bit easier, right? That whole arena for the most part has been in need of a little bit of an update to meet today's needs and kind of market.
Yeah. And buying style is what's on my radar next for sure. But this is about your own sales style. Yeah. So this is really what are you uniquely aligned with to begin with your own personality, the way you approach sales, how do we capitalize on those strengths, and then where are some areas in which you can grow. So today we're going to really give you an overview of this. There are 3 different types of sales styles to start. We may elaborate on those in the future, but we're starting with 3 big buckets. And we're going to talk you through that, what the strengths are. And then we want you to come back for next week's episode when we're going to talk about the areas you can grow in with those 3 styles. There is a quiz for you to take. Yeah. So excited. So it's linked in the show notes. Make sure you head to that link and take the quiz and shoot us a DM and let us know what your sales style is.
No cheating, right? No, don't copy off your neighbor, right?
Yes.
You can have one piece of scratch paper, no calculator.
You need to turn in your notes when you're done.
Turn in your notes when you're done,
So we know that there's nothing shady going on. Yes. Yeah. So that's there. And then actually coming up on April 3rd, I am hosting a free masterclass to dive into the sales styles called the Sales Style Secrets. Sales Style Secret.
That would be good if
I love alliteration.
One of those eels from Little Mermaid.
I knew you were going to say that. Yes. We're coming off of Ava's high school production of Little Mermaid. She was Flotsam, the best eel the stage has ever known. We've talked about it before on the pod. Yeah. And she had one part you really loved.
But she was just good at it. That's all. I liked it.
What was your favorite?
I enjoy when she says all her S's and then like sister or something like something. Yeah, it is very like eely.
Maybe I'll get Ava to do a promo for the Sales Style Secret Masterclass. So head to the show note, take the quiz, and then make sure you register for the masterclass. Yep. It is free.
But before we get into all that good stuff, I have a fun fact and a little bit of a fun peek behind the curtain, if you will, for Krista. So we've talked a little bit on this podcast about how I am a competitive person, but I think I'm on a series now to show you the competitiveness that is Krista. Last time, if you remember,
just air all my dirty laundry.
No. I'm just saying it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So these are positive things.
Got it.
Last time, if you remember, we talked about Mario Kart and throwing red turtle shells and blue turtle shells.
Only at you.
At me, right? So because that was important for her to be dominant with Princess P, or what's her name?
Oh my gosh, get it right.
Yeah.
Rosalina.
Rosalina. So close. Now I want to say that Chris has been taking Pilates for some time. And I will honestly say, when she takes an early morning Pilates class, the remainder of her morning prior to lunchtime, part of her enjoyment of that day is based upon how dominant she was in the class.
What? You haven't even been in a class.
I have been in a class. I went to a class with you.
That wasn't a class.
What do you call it?
That was a free consult for you.
Right.
That was not a class. You think what you saw me do was nothing. That was kids play. That was kindergarten level.
Exhibit G right here. No, I'm just saying there are times I think when you are proud of all the bands that you put on what do you call it? What's the name of it?
No, The Reformer.
The Reformer.
But that's not true.
You remember that song, The Reformer? Yeah.
No. Okay. The truth is, it's not about being competitive. It's about it's about the growth in what I can do there. So it's not being competitive. I'm not being competitive with anyone else there. It's more, I'm not.
Okay, all right, I got you.
Who am I competitive with there?
I wouldn't know. I haven't been
I'm not competitive with anyone there. It's about
Understood.
Wanting it to be hard, and if it's hard and I feel like I can do it well when it's hard, then I like that.
Okay. Well, the fun fact is you enjoy being dominant. Like you're like the goat of Pilates.
No, my gosh. No, I'm not.
The Michael Jordan of Pilates.
You make stuff up. This is not true. I am not. That is
in my
not...
head you are. I did take one. I guess we can't call it a class. It was a consult. I did take one consult. I found it to be far more difficult than, well, not more difficult than I thought because I expected it to be hard, but it's probably more challenging than I think most people realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, and when I've been doing it now since September.
Yeah.
So it's almost 6 months that I've been doing it, and you get better at something when you do it for 6 months consistently.
Totally.
So I'm like
anything.
proud of being consistent.
You should be. Yeah. I'm proud of it.
I'm also, shout out Pilates for you, Hanmi Jin, Bel Air, Maryland, right off of Main Street. If you're local, you really should go there, because what I will say is, I don't know if I've noticed any necessarily physical, visual changes in my body, maybe a little bit, but more I am not achy the way I used to be achy. Waking up out, getting out of bed in the morning, sometimes when you're like, oh, my hip hurts, my back hurts. I'll still have things that will tweak, but in general, I feel like I can get up and down really quickly. It has helped with my mobility and my strength so much.
You're oiling up your joints a little bit, right?
It's really good for you. So I can't wait for you to do it.
Me too. I'm in.
Because I will be competitive with you.
You just spent 10 minutes telling me how you're not. Okay.
Only you.
Only me.
Anyway, back to sales styles and owning your unique strengths.
Perfect lead in.
Yes. So I'm really excited to introduce this concept to all of you today that are listening and watching on YouTube. All 2 of you that watch us on YouTube.
Hundreds.
Hundreds. I meant to say 200s of thousands. Because when I think back to the beginning of my own sales journey, so my first business was selling accessories, felt like they were really nice and good and high quality, which they were, and they will just sell themselves. People will understand the brand and they will, want to get them from me. Doesn't work like that. And I was so scared to sell because I really thought there was a one size fits all approach, which was you need your pitch. It needs to be very structured. It needs to be bold and forceful. You need to have a lot of data in there, and you need to be hammering the message again and again and again until you wear someone down enough to buy it. Mm-hmm. That perception of sales was based on bad sales experiences,
movies.
Movies, movies, society, mattress
pop culture
store, car sales. Not everyone is like that, but especially 80s, 90s, early 2000s, it was a lot like that, and so it was based on that. When I always say, everything changed when I learned how to tell stories, when I learned how to talk about the products, which is true. But the other piece of that puzzle is when I learned how to bring my own unique strengths and personality into the stories, into the way I talked about things. And I'm a feminine person, I definitely have some masculine energy, but I am softer. I am gentler in...
I didn't say anything. Sure. I didn't say anything.
To everyone but you. I am softer. I am gentler. No, but that's my approach will never be like some of the sales bros you see on Instagram and TikTok. And I've thought about this a lot. And I know many of our listeners, not everyone is female, but many are female. And in general, the advice about sales is coming from men. And you're different in this way because your advice is different. But if you go onto TikTok and look at sales training, sales tips, even Instagram, it is a lot of sales bros that are like, don't say just following up. This is what you want to say. Like, and you say those same words, but your delivery is different. It's there is a way to harness your uniqueness that's inside of you, your unique strengths, your skills, your personality to deliver messages. And that's what these sales styles are all about.
Yeah. And I don't know, like I said, if you've been in this space or you're kind of dialed into this sales style sort of thing, like this has been around for a while, right? Like the idea of different sales styles have been around for a while, but I don't know that they've been updated adequately for the time that we live in now, or for the forum that we're trying to sell in now, namely a lot online, right?
Digital,
I think, digital world. It's just not the same, right? I think you got the rise and grind, like over the top dude bro finance guy who
the sales bros,
who, you know, the guy does the 5-minute cold plunge every morning and he's just better than you. That guy, right? That's one of my favorite guys. Then you've got the other ones that are sort of all the way on the other end of the spectrum. I think my thing is, and I've been sort of in this arena for 20 years now, right? Which is pretty crazy, coming up on 20 years. So there was this concept of sales styles and sales philosophies as long as I've been in this industry. I think the new wet behind the ears person that I was 19 years ago sort of thought that there was one better than the other, right? So I think the message was there are all these different sales styles, and then sort of the connotation behind that was, well, one is better than the others, right? And you start to think, well, it's got to be this way or it's got to be that way. Me being in the medical sales space, it always felt like, you know, being over the top product expert guy was sort of better than the other ones. It's not just now that I realize that's not true, but over time I realized there is no one better than the other, right? I mean, I talk about the challenger sales model all the time, right? That if you read the book, not just the Cliff's Note versions, not just some guy's notes on Reddit, right? If you read the book, it clearly tells you you are what you are here, right? Like you're A, B, C, D, E, F. You are one of these things. One thing that you can do to improve, which I think is what we're going to get to in the next episode, is you can incorporate some challenger concepts into what you already are, right? Don't if you're in the C category, don't try to put yourself in the B category or F category, whatever it is, right? You're not going to move categories. Just incorporate some things so you're working on some weaknesses. And I think that's the key message here from my standpoint.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm going to try to walk you through a visual, which is hard to do auditorily. Is that a word?
Orally? Not
okay.
Orally. Does that mean? I think A-U-R.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to walk you through by speaking it to you, but I want you to try to envision this. Okay. So we know what a Venn diagram looks like. It's circles that are overlapping. So we're going to imagine 3 overlapping circles, kind of like in a triangular shape. That top circle, and so the overall picture is effective selling, right? So these are 3 different pieces.
Like the title, if it was a slide.
Effective selling. So there's 3 different big pieces of effective selling. And if you've listened to the podcast before, if you're a student of Acorn, you've heard these things before. The first one is who you are. This really is encompassed by your personal stories. It's the building the relational trust. It's the fun fact at the beginning of the podcast episode before we get into the meat of the podcast. It's helping someone see you as a real person, get to know you as a real person. So this a lot in selling is a lot of that relationship selling. This is like the pharmaceutical sales that's going and having lunch and telling all about the new dog they got and the kids and all that. In the online world, this is someone who likes to share behind the scenes of their life. You know their kids, you know everything about them. You don't have to go all in on that, but that is an important piece of the puzzle. So that's who you are. The next circle is what you say. So this is the ability to tell stories that move people to action. So these stories are going to have all the elements needed of a sales message. So the person is going to be able to listen, see themselves in the story. They're going to see a clear like before and after, a shift. They're going to see them up against something like their pain point in the story. You're going to be able to tell them, here's what happens if you take the action. Here's what happens if you don't take the action. And here's what you should do. So really articulate, great sales stories, knowing, and in the, person-to-person sales world, this is being able to go in and give a really solid pitch on the product that doesn't have anything to do necessarily with yourself, but being able to articulate maybe the mission behind the company, why this product's going to make somebody's life easier.
Right.
In the online world, this is somebody who's really good at showing off the facts and features of the product, that's telling a story about how it's going to make your life easier, simpler, better. This can be written, this can be verbal. So that's the what you say. The last circle is the how you say it. So how you say it is your delivery of either of those other two things. So your delivery of talking about yourself or your delivery of these sales stories. Mm-hmm. How you say it in the person-to-person world is your ability to engage with people, to have a back and forth conversation, to command a room in front of a group of people where you're pitching to. In the online world, this is your ability to write really effective content through your email marketing, through your socials. It's your ability to hop on a podcast and talk about something where people aren't like, oh, this delivery is so boring, or like, it's so manic, I can't follow. It is the ability to hop on a Instagram Live or go on your stories. So those are the three pieces of the puzzle: who you are, what you say, how you say it. Those are the three pieces I take my clients through in Acorn Amplify, our program.
That's your 3 Venn diagram circles.
3 Venn diagram circles. Now, I want you to think of the overlap, right? So in a perfect world, we overlap, there's a little bit of overlap for all 3 of these circles. If you can picture that, there's a little bit right in the middle. That is like the sales superstar, the person that can do all 3 of those things really well. And that's where we want to move to. That's our ideal state. Sometimes we're there, but no one is there all the time. We all have natural tendencies and abilities and gifts that's going to push us more into one of the other overlaps, right? Mm-hmm. So we can aim to get in the middle, but it's just like, I think of, this is such a random example, but as I'm talking through this, I'm thinking of when I'm on the Peloton. Sometimes my right hip hurts me because I realize I'm not distributing my weight evenly. Like I kind of lean to that one side. Mm-hmm. In Pilates, same thing, right? Yeah. So you're going to lean one way in a direction of one of these overlap circles. So is that clear so far before I go in?
It's crystal clear.
Okay.
No, I mean, I get it. I've seen that, but I've also seen the...
Right.
Yeah.
But am I doing a good job?
You're doing a great job. It's amazing.
Okay.
I feel like I'm already getting text messages telling me how great a job you're doing.
Okay, good. So now we're going to think of the overlap of those circles. So there's an overlap between the who you are and the what you say. Mm-hmm. There's an overlap between the what you say and the how you say it. And then there's an overlap between the how you say it and who you are. So these...
And there's one in the middle too.
That's what I just said. Yeah. And that's the sales superstar. Right. But taking that out of the equation where we know that's our end goal.
Just trying to describe what the graphic looks like.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, trying to help you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. So let's talk about the first overlap. So the who you are and the what you say. This is the first sales style profile. Mm-hmm. So this is someone that does a good job of sharing who they are. They're going to share some personal stories. You feel like you know them, and they're really effective. They're really effective at giving information. So they know how to synthesize the product and talk about the product. They have a little room to grow in the way they deliver that information. Mm-hmm. So spicing it up, making it conversational. So if you are really strong in sharing your personal stories and also integrating that with the sales stories, the facts and features of your product, you are an expert.
Mm-hmm. So this is the person that you would think sometimes would be, if you met somebody that you thought, and I know this is an overgeneralization, I don't mean this to sound mean, like they're a little bit light in the personality category, right? They're maybe sometimes a little bit drier or sometimes much more direct, right? You've talked to people like this. These people fill super important roles. They're product experts. They're people who can accurately and effectively tell a customer what their product can do and message that value proposition, and they nail that, right?
Right.
If there's a spot for them to grow, it's that it feels a little maybe robotic or canned or a little bit less
I don't
personal.
I don't want to.
It's not a negative thing. I don't mean it to be negative, but I'm just
I don't want to lean into the negatives so much right now because actually an expert, when you think about it, is somebody like Brene Brown. And you don't know Brene Brown as well.
I know Brene.
Right, but not as well as I know her.
I taught you a thing about Brene just this week. You didn't even know.
You didn't teach me anything.
Sure did.
Okay. Brene.
You think she's an expert? That's her.
Yeah, because she's really good. If you had to look at those three circles, where is she strongest? She's still really good in her delivery.
Yeah. No,
her delivery
I know,
is
it's
great.
Oversimplification, but you know what I'm saying. Like if I'm trying to just accurately describe the Venn diagram,
her delivery is great. It's where are you strongest? So instead of thinking where am I weakest as you're listening to this, and you're going to take the quiz, so you'll be able to know where are you strongest. So Brene is really strong at telling stories that weave in her own personal bits of information while teaching you a lesson. Mel Robbins can also be in this category. So Mel Robbins shares a lot of really great stories and has lessons attached to them, facts and figures to back things up. Both of them are actually also excellent communicators. So they're probably much closer to that middle sales superstar, but if you had to categorize them, that's where they would be, okay? So moving on to the next one.
Okay.
The what you say and the how you say it. So this overlap, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I honestly, this is where I thought I was going to be, to be totally honest with you. This is kind of how I see myself a little bit. So this overlap would be the educator, right?
So the name is the educator.
What we name this sort of person, the what you say, how you say it person, right? So again, understanding your delivery is important, right? And understanding your message is important, and then sort of almost having that like underlying, I think of it as having this underlying kind of motivation to teach people about something, right? I do feel like I lean into that pretty strongly on my as myself, right? Not that I would think that I'm super weak in another category. I mean, I'm probably most like Brene Brown, if anybody who's taken the quiz so far.
Definitely.
No, I'm kidding. Anyhow, but yeah, so this is what we call the educator, right? So this is somebody who shows up, knows their stuff, right? And then also knows how to sort of message that to somebody else, right? I know my value proposition. I'm going to tweak my value proposition so that I can describe it to you so you can accurately and quickly understand how it impacts you. So the conversation's about you. I'm teaching you something, a little bit less about me and a little bit more of like an informal sort of classroom.
Right. And so this person is someone that shies more away from their own personal stories.
Yeah. Which is kind of what I assumed I would be, because I don't really talk a lot about personal stuff, like personal stories, you know.
Right. So this person also, though, thrives in a one-to-many situation as opposed to a one-to-one situation. So I think that's why you got your result.
Yeah.
Because the next part we're going to talk about is better one-to-one. But this is someone that can stand in front of the group, is so compelling. Think of your favorite teacher you've ever had in your life. Like, is so compelling. You want to listen to them. You're hanging on every word, because not only is what they're saying teaching you something, you can see the story selling going on, but their delivery is really good. But they're not necessarily weaving in. You don't feel like you necessarily know them on like a personal level.
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey, educator, right? So Oprah Winfrey.
I know about Stedman. So close. Oh no.
All of these people I'm giving you, I mean, we're looking at people at the top of their game in communication. So they are all good in all three areas. Yeah. But when you think of Oprah, she's not, think of the Oprah Winfrey Show, if you're old enough to remember that. Even like her, I forget what they're called, she has a little series where she does like interviews. Okay. She's not talking so much about herself. She's listening, and then she's finding lessons, and she's delivering. So that's the educator. And then the last sales style type is the engager. Right. And this is where both you and I landed.
Samesies.
That's why we need to hire some others in our business.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast episode. Hiring for sort of your weaknesses, but yeah. So this is the overlap between how you say it and who you are, right? So this is the person who understands and really gets and is strong in the area of messaging, right? The how you say it part, and also allows other people kind of the peek behind the curtain, so they personally understand who they are, not just somebody that they have a professional working relationship with, right? So, the other side of that again would be the what you say. So this would be a person who is more sort of naturally gravitates towards the idea of their messaging and their personal stories.
When you say messaging, you mean more communication.
Communication, yeah. I don't mean, I'm sorry, I keep using that word, but I always say that to people that I work with outside of the Acorn community about your messaging is how you're taking your story and communicating that to a customer, right? Like the way that you naturally communicate those words.
Yeah. Messaging in the entrepreneurial world kind of encompasses a whole bigger thing.
Right. So we haven't caught up to you guys yet.
So true.
But
yes, the engager is someone who's going to thrive in a personal situation, in a one-to-one situation. There's someone that's going to be able to sit down with someone, make that person feel really seen and heard, share a bit about themselves, and do it in a really empathetic, engaging way. Where there is an area for improvement is incorporating more of the data, more of the facts, more of the figures into that conversation. Now, it doesn't mean that this person can't do it in front of a crowd, but they're also a person that if they stand in front of a crowd, the crowd's going to walk away thinking, oh my gosh, I like that person. I want to go sit and have a drink with them. I want to have coffee with them versus I could listen to them all day. They've taught me so much, right? Yeah. And so that is where both you and I land. And back to where I started. When I started in sales, I felt like I needed to be the expert. The other side, yeah. I needed to be the expert and a little bit of the educator, but I didn't realize you can thrive in that more personal thing. And so again, one is not better than the other.
That was my initial take, that when I first started understanding what this is again, 19, 20 years ago, right? That there was multiple different options, and one was number one was number two. If you're not good enough to be number one, you can try number two. You know what I mean? And then they were sort of rank ordered. And I think what we've come to learn and what I've come to truly understand by both personal experience and professional experience with you, right, is there is not one that's better than the other, right? Knowing what your strengths are, knowing what naturally you gravitate towards allows you to capitalize on those, as well as understanding where you need to brush up. And I think when we talk about me being the engager, not truly thinking about that and thinking that that's where I was going to end up, right? But then I think about what do I naturally gravitate towards, right? Well, I love having a one-on-one or a one-on-two or three meeting, right? I would rather be in person, sitting in a room with one or two or a handful of people selling my product or service than I would presenting to 50 people on a Zoom, right? Exactly. I would naturally gravitate towards that.
Exactly.
Two, I would naturally gravitate towards messaging and communicating to them, and less about data, numbers, and whatever, and not much of a detail guy when it comes to that, right? So it does make sense, right? So I don't think I'm bad as a product expert. I just think I naturally don't gravitate towards that. I do the other way.
Right. You know? So we're going to come back next episode, and we're going to give you some tips on how to capitalize on your strengths based on your sales style type, and also some ways to kind of sharpen the area in which you need to sharpen. So come back with us next episode for that. Make sure you take the quiz.
Don't show up without doing your homework. We will send you home.
It's a very short quiz, 10 questions, takes 2 minutes, right?
Depends on how much effort you put into
it. It's quick, and we're really excited for it. So thanks for being with us. Can't wait to hear what your sales type is, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.